Welcome to the Rural Futures Institute at the University of Nebraska. I'm Chuck Schroeder. I'm Executive Director of the Institute, and you are joining us for today's broadcast of Catch Up with Chuck. One of the blessings of this job is that I get to meet a lot of really interesting people, and our guest today is prime evidence of that. Brooke Lehman is an undergraduate student here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She's involved with the Engler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program, and she has just launched a very unusual business, and we're going to talk about that today. But Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We are delighted to have you. Well, listen, before we get into your business, which is a great story in itself, I think your personal story does a lot to set up
It does.
Dwell Dinners and why it's unusual. And so I wanted to give you a chance to share with our audience a bit of your upbringing and your family. You were crossing borders and crossing barriers of various kinds when most of us were trying to get the car for Saturday night.
Yes.
And I love the story. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so my story, I have a lot of different things that have influenced kind of where I've come today. But a huge part of that would be Spain and travel. I have traveled a lot in my life, and ever since the age of 10, I have been going to Spain about every other summer. And
I grew up here in Lincoln.
Yes.
I didn't say that.
Yes,
yeah.
I did grow up here in Lincoln, born and raised, Lincolnite, love it.
Nebraska kid. Okay.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
And so then ever since the age of 10, I traveled a lot, specifically to Spain, and we built relationships with specific groups of people in small towns there. And so that is kind of what gave me my passion for people and other cultures.
Yeah. And so you really, from those very early days, were having to meet people you hadn't met before and trying to cross cultural barriers, language barriers, and try to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, so you and I met when Dr. Tom Field, who's director of the Engler program and a dear friend of the Rural Futures Institute, asked if I would meet with this young woman about a very unusual idea that she had for her entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
So that started our friendship.
Yes.
And so when people hear about your background, I think a lot of people would rationally say, well, okay, this is a kid that's probably focusing in philosophy or theology, but here you are in this business startup program. So I want you to tell our audience about the conceptual framework as well as the execution of Dwell Dinners.
Yeah. So I should go back a little bit, but like my passion for Dwell Dinner came from all of this traveling, the connection I had with people, and even a disconnect in my life in high school. I had a lot of different groups of friends, but I never felt a part of any one group. And so coming into college, I'm like, how can I connect people in my friend group, my classes, my work, all of these different disconnected little communities, but how can we come together and bring those people together? So that's kind of where the idea of Dwell Dinner & Co. became. And so I really wanted to combine my passions and talents for healthy cooking and food, photography, and then bringing people together in a really meaningful way that wasn't just around food, but around conversation that had more depth to it. Not just, what's the weather like and how is your day, but like, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? And so that is what Dwell Dinner was founded upon, is just this relational connectivity of depth with other people that are both our age and like older and younger to just kind of connect this disconnected world. And so from that, I started hosting long table dinner gatherings with 12 people each month. So ever since my junior year, which I'm now a senior, so since 2016, I've hosted a dinner every single month with 12 people at each dinner. And it started out with people I knew, but then it grew and other people heard about it, then signed up online, and then they would come to these dinners to meet other people, try food, and the whole experience was tailored to them. So to come to a dinner, they had to fill out a form, it would ask a few questions about themselves, their personality, their favorite ingredient, and in turn I would turn all of that into this dinner experience. So that is kind of what the business is founded upon, and that's also how I create then this experience. Like the conceptualization, I guess, of it is me thinking about what is the end goal, what do I want people to leave feeling? And so if I want them to feel connected and motivated and inspired, which is usually kind of the end feeling I want people to go away with, and also feeling like it was purposeful, like these connections that they made, these relationships that they have made are going to help them later in life. So maybe they don't realize it then, but maybe 2 months down the road, they're like, oh, I met someone at Dwell Dinner that could help me like with this idea. And I have proven stories that's happened. And so that's super motivating and what keeps me doing it every time. After a dinner. And so it's always the people, the conversations that are had, and it's amazing to see what people will share during a dinner when you do draw them out. So another question is, are you a doer, dreamer, thinker? And I usually start out with listing off who all the doers, dreamers, and thinkers are and why they think that they might be that. And that really starts to get people talking about understanding themselves and then understanding other people better. Some other questions I ask are, what's your passion, or what's a detail about you that most people don't know? And some of them are funny, like I have a weird, like my finger can like move in a weird way. Or some people are like, most people think I'm super confident, but on the inside I'm actually super insecure and hate talking in front of people. And I get a lot of that, which is really interesting to think that we all have these ideas in our heads that we think we're the only one, but really everybody is just as insecure and afraid of talking. And so that's what kind of brings it down to a more relational level of, once we can all realize this, that we're all just really lonely or insecure people on the inside, that then like people open up and it's like, wow, there's this whole community of people around us that care and want to help us move forward with our life. So yeah, that's a little bit more about 12.
So when we think about the business model,
Yeah.
These 12 people either pay a fee or somebody sponsors the evening.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it works?
Yep.
And how do you find them, or how do they find you?
So far, it's just been through word of mouth and social media. So I do have an Instagram and a website where I've reached out to people, but most people so far in the Lincoln community, and then other friends that have gone, have told their people, like, you need to go to this. So, and then I have had a few speaking opportunities at Nonprofit Hub. I did a workshop. I've done a few collaborations with some more bigger industry speakers and photographers that are a little bit more well known.
Sure. Okay, so somebody's sitting in our audience and they're hearing this story and they're thinking, this is a pretty unusual business.
Yes,
Now, this
yes.
is a pretty unusual
And
business.
it is hard.
And it's not a traditional business.
No.
But we have to say now that its potential as a business success has been ratified, if you will, by judges at a recent
pitch
competition sponsored by the College of Business here at UNL. So this was not an internal process with your buddies here at Miller Hall. This was at the College of Business. You were runner-up in that contest.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that and what the judges had to say.
That was a really awesome experience for me, and I honestly didn't think I was going to get that far in the competition. I was just like, I'm going to go pitch once, I'll get some feedback, make a few connections, and I'll have learned. But I ended up making it into the second day, the third round, so that was all crazy. But going into it, I was terrifying. The whole time, I was just like shaking and nervous. But when it came time to pitch, I did my pitch that I had practiced, and the judges, the first thing they always said was, wow, that was a really professional, well done pitch that you told a story. So I think that was kind of my differentiating factor, is that I tried to tell a story rather than just say, here's a business plan and the financials. But like, I told the story of Dwell Dinner and how it's impactful on people and what it really does. Because it could just seem like a food service or a catering service or an event planning, but it's actually much more than that. It's the relational connection that people are having and the conversation, the facilitation. And so judges were always then asking about, like, how do you actually make that happen? They're like, it sounds cool in theory, but how do you do it? So that was always a big question. And then, like you said, how do you find your customers? And right now it's been small. I've just been doing it once a month. So as a scaled business, there's a lot more that it entails, such as doing corporate events and stuff like that.
Sure.
But yeah.
But they thought it had genuine promise.
It was, like you said, no one had ever heard of it. It had potential, and there's
and
so
these were
many
business guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I did need to point out too that these weren't random. These are business leaders who are in the business of looking at business ventures.
Yeah.
And I thought their recognition of your potential was pretty significant.
Yeah, and there's so many different avenues and ways it could take place to turn into a business that they saw a lot of different potential. So for more than anything, I did win some money, but I also made connections. They all gave me their business cards and said, hey, reach out to us. We would love to use your services or help get you connected. So it was really beneficial in that way.
What a boost. Yeah, that's exciting. Well, listen, Brooke, we've said many times on this show in the past that our goal at the Rural Futures Institute is to achieve a thriving, high-touch, high-tech future for Nebraska and the Great Plains by 2040. Well, lots of smart people are focused on the high-tech side of that equation. That's where the excitement is. There's an amazing ongoing evolution in that realm. That's where the money is. I just have to say, I'm personally concerned that too few of our brightest and best are focused on the high-touch side of that equation. Yeah, high touch rather than high tech. So it does seem to me that that's your role, and I want you to talk a little bit about what you think might be done to address that high touch side.
So what I'm doing through
Dwell Dinners.
Yeah, what I'm doing through Dwell Dinner is what is really what I'm doing to help the high touch side of things. So that's kind of my contribution to this whole thing. But another avenue that I see Dwell Dinner is going into tech companies, which is actually, I have a full-time position that I actually just got after graduation. Well, I'll be working at Flywheel, which they're a tech company, and they do WordPress hosting, and I'll be doing employee experience. So more than ever, companies are needing to cultivate a culture that is connected, and people that work in tech, they're already a family, but they don't really act like a family. They're very disconnected. They just go to work and do their tech work, but there's a community right there, and they need to act like a community. And so that's kind of what a lot of innovative companies are doing, is creating a culture and really creating conversation and connections and caring about their employees, seeing the value that they all have, and then reaching out to the community. And so I think any kind of tech company can cultivate a culture that then they can carry out into the message that they're sharing. And so I see bringing Dwell Dinner into those environments to create connections within people. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'm passionate about, is that face-to-face interaction, because there really is nothing like that.
Sure. Well, I have to tell you, some people might ask, well, what's this got to do with the Real Futures Institute? Well, one of the real challenges that we know faces rural America and rural people globally is the gaps between rural and urban, between high-tech and low-tech, all kinds of crossing cultural barriers that are significant in some rural communities today. So when we see your talent coming to bear in this way, we think it's really important. So we're proud to be associated with you. What would you like to add today?
I don't have a whole lot other than just keep on asking good questions in life, because I think that's the thing that, at least my generation, it's hard to ask the hard questions, the deep questions that really lead to the next thing. And that's kind of what conversation is all about. And when we do get face-to-face, people don't know the questions that we should be asking to have these deeper connections. And just really taking an interest in others is kind of what my goal in life is to do, is to, wherever I am, take hold of that opportunity, that person. You never know what a connection could lead to.
Well, we're cheering for your success.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, folks, we would ask you to stay in touch with the Rural Futures Institute through our website, through Facebook, and Facebook Live is where you see Catch Up with Chuck, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those good tools. We're going to be back next week with another conversation with real people about real places, and demonstrating that thriving rural communities are a legitimate best choice for worthwhile living. Thanks for joining us.